and gentlemen.
Oh, I know I've lied to you. I know I've cheated on you. There's blood all over the walls here.
If someone in a movie show yelled, "Fire in the second row,"
why did you write it?
Because I am in the error of my ways, and
usual gracious self thanks the bailiff, and he smiles at her.
But kid, you're working with a star. The biggest.
Pop. 6. Squish. Cicero. Lip shits. Pop. 6. Squish. Cicero. Lip shits.
the dirty bomb, 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 the dirty bomb, 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 bomb. They had it come, 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 they had it come along. The thing they used, the thing they used, the thing they abused, how they abused. How could you tell us that we were wrong?
Mama, you know I'm not a jealous person, but every time I see that tomato's name on the front page, it drives me nuts.
Man, Roxy Hart is loud. She's obnoxious. She's a boisterous character. She's a woman who just wants to be a vaudeville dancer more than anything. She wants her own act. She wants to be a star. And sometimes she does things that she shouldn't do to get there. But it's working for her, so yeah. Well, the process has been pretty interesting because we started off with very limited rehearsals. I only came to Friday singing rehearsals, and then we had a few dance rehearsals during the week to learn the dances. So that was really different for me because I'm used to being at the theater every night, 6 p.m., and we were doing it very differently this time. And we just recently started actually having acting rehearsals where we come in and we actually do the dialogue and the show. And that's been my favorite part because it's what I want to do. So putting it all together has been interesting, and now we're about to go from the black box, which is about this big, to the pack stage and just do it all over again and restage. So I'm excited about that. I think my 4th time working with Lisa. I've worked with her every single year since I got here, and it's always very smooth with us. I'm usually right where she is mentally, and we know where to go with the character, so I always have so much fun working with her. And this cast is full of new people that I don't know, so it's been really fun actually being able to get to know people instead of working with the same people over and over again.
Any of the chickies in my pen, they'll tell you I'm the biggest mother hen. I love them all and all of them love me, because the system works, the system called reciprocity. sees me through. When you're good to mama, mama's good to you. There's a lot of favors I'm prepared to do. You do one for mama, she'll do one for you. They say that life is tit for tat, and that's the way I live. So I deserve a lot of tat for what I've got to give. Don't you know that this hand washes that one too? When you're good to mama, mama's good to you. If you
Hold my hand, oh baby, it's a long way down to the bottom of the river. Hold my hand, oh baby, it's a long way down, long way down. You get sweet, you get love. The cop's gonna call in the morning, baby. The club for your daddy's gone. Red sun rises like an early warning. Love's gonna come for your beautiful son. His hair's on fire and his heart is burning. Hold my hand, oh baby, it's a long way down to the bottom. Hold my hand, oh baby, it's a long way down. Hold my hand, oh baby, it's a long way down. Long way. Hold my hand, oh baby, it's a long way down. Long way down. Nobody tells their lies, girl. Nobody tells their lies, girl. Nobody tells their lies, girl.
An Octoroon is a postmodern adaptation of The Octoroon, which is a 19th century abolitionist melodrama that has long since pretty much been forgotten, even though the guy who wrote it, Boucicault, was a very famous playwright at the time. And Brandon Jacobs Jenkins, who is a very important and prominent playwright right now, he adapted it into the form that we're performing it today, kind of twisting some of the conventions of the piece that would be rather unsavory today, and making the play, we're telling the story, but we're also making it a vehicle for some things that Mr. Jacobs Jenkins wants to say about race and identity in America. First off, I'd like to say that we hope that audiences don't feel too uncomfortable. We want them to feel just the right amount of uncomfortable.
Yes.
It is not, I can't really describe the theatrical experience, but you know, it's a very popular and award-winning play, and it isn't because people run from the theater when they go to see it. They actually enjoy it and have a good time, even though it deals with some really intense issues. I think Kelsey actually helped a lot with that. Last year, a group of students led by Kelsey just decided to have a reading of the play because people were curious about it. Some people had heard some things. People felt a little uncomfortable. Some people were intrigued, and they ended up having just a student-run reading that they invited me to that was completely independent of, we hadn't even cast the show yet. It was months beforehand, but I think that students reading the play.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just hearing a synopsis, you may think that it's going to be very uncomfortable, but they got the play beforehand. They were able to read it. They were able to get comfortable with the characters, and a lot of the people that were in the read-through actually were able to do the play. So they had time to get to know their characters and understand the inner meaning of the play rather than just seeing what's on the surface of it. Don't judge the show just with what you've heard. You should come and see it because it's hilarious. There's so many wonderful actors, and we have put a lot of care and time into it, and it's going to be a great show.
It really is, it's a show that I'm very proud that we're doing. I think that Georgia Southern is a pretty unique department and unique school, and I think that we have an opportunity to do the show in a way that lots of universities don't. I've told other people, like, oh yeah, we're doing Brandon Jacobs' An Octoroon, and people are like, really? Wow, okay, how's that gonna go? And yeah, I mean, there's some stuff in it that's touchy, but it's a little bit dangerous, but I've gotten lots of support from everybody, from my colleagues in the department to the dean, you know, who read it all ahead of time, and I think Kelly Berry put it best, you know, like, if it's dangerous, then maybe we should do it.
Yes.
And I think that it's unfortunately, a play for our time. I mean, I think when he originally wrote it, we were still sort of in basking in the idea that we may possibly be inside of a post-racial society, and that clearly isn't in the cards right now. And I think that it's important to look at this stuff. And I think the playwright believes that wholeheartedly, and I think that it's a necessary function of theater to bring people together to experience something, hopefully in a really constructive way.
He said he's bringing a friend.
Male or female?
I don't know.
I have a comb.
Marty, you're a wreck.
No, Mama, that's too broad a category. Tell me what the subject is.
You, a fiance, here. Why?
You look beautiful. You are beautiful. Kiss me.
They're your family.
You're my family.
Not yet.
Anthony, did you give your sister her medication?
Uh-huh.
Did you check under her tongue?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just that we've never had a guest before.
Never?
Never.
Did he tell you about his other girlfriends?
Did he tell you about his other girlfriends?
Yes is, I kind of like to imagine it like your worst case scenario family Thanksgiving dinner times 100 plus sex and violence and the Kennedys. So I hope they feel kind of creeped out, like they're in a slightly haunted house, but I also hope they laugh a lot and have fun.
House of Yes, initially I think it means like perfection. And I feel like as the play progresses, it starts to mean more about privilege and more about the upper 1%, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that's what House of Yes now means to me. It means kind of like there's these people who live in a bubble, and they don't know anything outside of that bubble. They know living in their rich household, and that's it. And from someone who's not from that household, it looks like perfection. It looks like that house in the hill that you want, just like the Joneses. That's not it.
No, I read the play first. I don't care for the movie. I actually asked the cast not to watch the movie because I think some of the characters are a little bit too passive. Obviously, Jackie O plays a very important role in this production, in this play. But I think the movie made it just about Jackie O, and I think all of the characters are strong and interesting and have real goals they're going after, and I didn't like how passive they were in the movie. So I'm hoping for stronger and more active cast members.
Jackie O is either someone who is crazy or someone who is spoiled, or in the mix of the two, or however you'd like to interpret it as an audience member. But to me, she's someone who represents what can go wrong when you always get what you want. Because if you're unable to be told no, then when you're finally told no, what drastic measures will you go to be told yes?
Marty is this guy who he's grown up in this highly dysfunctional, very wealthy family that sort of imitates the Kennedys, except for it's a little bit like a Black Mirror to the Kennedys, where everything they go right, we go wrong kind of thing. And he's lived in this dysfunctional family for just too damn long and he can't take it anymore. So he moved to New York to where he could try to find some normalcy. That's kind of what he craves throughout the whole play, is just some sense of ordinary. But he's recently engaged and he feels the need that he should go home and tell his family because it's the normal thing to do, which is what happens. He comes on Thanksgiving and announces that he's engaged, and from then on he's just sort of trying to cling to his normal life that he's formed and created, while also trying to push away the dysfunction and the craziness that his family keeps trying to pull him back into.
Georgia Southern. Join me in the celebration of an historic event. A celebration of 35 years of African American plays here at Georgia Southern. Written by James Baldwin. Directed by Michael Whitaker. The Georgia Southern Theater Program presents The Amen Corner. Don't miss it.
Pass me not, O gentle Savior. Hear my humble cry. While on others thou art calling, do not pass me by. I'm crying now, Savior, Savior, hear my humble cry. While on others thou art calling, do not pass me by.
Tonight.
Hi, Jushan. How are you?
I'm swell.
Wonderful.
First, I want to say thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me.
Sure.
Tonight. We have lots of questions to get over, so you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Considering GSU's recent history of integration, what was it like being one of the first African American professors here at GSU?
Wow. Well, I certainly wasn't the first, but yeah, it was challenging. It was challenging. I came to Georgia Southern in 1981, and the school had been integrated since 65, I believe, 1965. But the enrollment for African Americans was slight, and very few professors. Dr. Charles Bonds, I believe, was the first professor hired. But I saw when I came that was an opportunity, quite frankly. The president of the university, Dale Lick, knew about my work in New York, and so he made it clear that he wanted me to do an African American play. I think the question was when to do it. Should it be the first play I do, or should it be a later play? We decided that it should be a later play. I think I decided that because I didn't want to get pigeonholed into being, the director of the black plays, because, I have a rather eclectic spirit. I particularly am fond of the Greek tragedies. So those are my favorites. And then I'm also adept with Shakespeare. So I wanted to leave some room for me to grow as a director and a performer. So my first play was a thing called Before the Flood, kind of a modern day treatment of Noah and the animals aboard the ark. Nice, family friendly, charming little allegory. And then that was a big success. And the next play, I decided to do Amen Corner, which I had been doing around the country before I came to Georgia Southern. So I was familiar with it. I wanted to take full advantage of the gospel tradition that was well known in South Georgia. And so Amen Corner seemed like a perfect fit.
One, I think that when we look at history, there's a lot of contributors that have been overlooked. Emily's a great example. A lot of men took credit for the work she did, and yet her translation of Newton's Principia is still used in France today. She laid the groundwork for a lot of future physicists. And also, I think that theater can expose us to history and ideas which can create discussion. And so I want them talking about how does this story relate to me now or to our world now.
Well, it's like entering into someone else's mind because you have to completely embody the character. But I've also been learning a lot of things about myself just through having to go into the character very emotionally, because she goes through so much. I don't want to spoil anything, but she goes through a lot emotionally, and it's not only bringing up stuff that I have felt personally, but it's bringing up stuff that I never thought I would have to feel before. So it's an interesting process.
Emily is the second stylized piece I've done, but the most stylized piece I've done, I would say. I guess you could say Chicago was stylized too in the dance and the movement doing Fosse. But this is the first time where I've actually had to focus on the way I really hold myself and my body and the way I'm connected from top to bottom and things like that. And it has been a challenge, but the more we do it, the better it gets. The easier it comes. We still have to stay conscious of it and work at it, but it's definitely, like I said, it's been a challenge, but it's been a fun challenge, definitely. I've had some laughs trying to walk and stand the way that this guy does, so it's been cool. Right, so we're exploring this woman's life, right, and the things she went through, but we're looking at the human condition, everything she goes through, the things she struggles with herself in her life, the people in her life, the fact that she's looking at it all right now. And I think with the things that Emily is going through in this show, that everybody will be able to relate in some way, shape, or form. They'll be able to understand what's being felt by these people living on this stage.
The fact that a woman can have, or not even just a woman, just one person can have such an impact on the world. So much depends on her and comes out of what she's done with her life. And I think it can be very empowering to not just women, but everybody.
A character of many layers. She's a 34-year-old divorcee drug addict who's living in a motel because her husband used to beat her. Her kid disappeared. She meets this random guy. There's do drugs and then bugs.
I still feel like Goss is a dark character. In terms of he comes home and his behavior doesn't quite change. He points the finger at everybody but himself. I feel like that's a funny characteristic. Well, not funny, but dark funny characteristic. But Lucio and Goss definitely have some similarities, I can say. But Goss has a little humor. But at the end of the day, he's still bad man, big time Goss.
In my heart, when there is none. What he brings is sort of a weird vibe. I feel like he's, although he's the less seen character, he brings a lot of importance to the play because in this crazy disaster that's going on, he kind of solidifies like, okay, are they crazy or like, is this real? Is this a possibility of something being real? So he kind of brings like, he kind of helps in that decision of like, okay, are they crazy or is this real? So that's what
as this friendship between Peter and Agnes grows in the hotel room, so does their paranoia, the conspiracies, and this general sense of just feeling almost like it's very contained, like almost just trapped in the hotel room. And there's a lot of drugs going on, and so we start to see things, and it's just a matter of whether those things are real or not.
It's definitely a blessing being able to work with Lisa again. I think she's a great director. She guides you in the right way, and I have been learning to. Well, since my first show, anyway, working with Lisa, you gotta trust her. You might have choices that you want to make. She's the director. I mean, you're the actor. You're gonna compromise, but at the end of the day, she's gonna lead you in the way a performance is supposed to be, and she's gonna help you shape your performance overall. We do get freedom with our choices, but like I said, as long as they're motivated, and she's gonna love it. And, that's.
I hope the audience will come back every night and see something they didn't see before. I want them to notice the set change that they didn't really recognize in like the first time they saw it, or they catch something that Agnes says that they didn't catch the first night that they saw it. I just want them to just keep coming back because there's so much a part of this play that just you can't grab everything.
For the process of Bug, I had to go back to the drawing table a lot. When Lisa first came to me, she said that I wanted realism, and my first few attempts at that were dancing on the line of realism, but wasn't pushing that realism as far as she wanted. And so it was a lot of going back and reworking and just seeing how far we can go with it, but I think it worked out well in the end, and I think it's going to give the audience a sense of where am I? Is this real? Can I trust these people?
My goal for the technical aspects of the show is the same as for the technical aspects of almost every show, which is I want the audience to come in and be in the moment with the actors. I want them to be engrossed in the story and the action that's happening. And I want them to not think once about the set or the lights or the costumes or the sound or anything else that takes them a step away from being fully involved with the performances.
So it's a close to contemporary show. It's actually set in the 90s, and from a costume standpoint, those can be the really tricky productions because they're not quite what we're used to looking at, right? But so we know if they're wrong. We know if something doesn't compute as the 1990s, but it's not like the 1890s, right? Where you get away with some stuff because people don't know the period as well. The other great thing about this is that a lot of the times in costumes, you're doing big and beautiful, right? And I love that. But with this, you're really doing things that are quite small in their detailing, and you get to do the lower end of the socioeconomic scale, and that comes with opportunities to dirty things up and to think about what it looks like when someone isn't on point with fashion. And that's its own exciting challenge with clothing.
I had to test a bunch of different methods that I was finding online, and some of them didn't really work well, and other ones worked better. And so it was really fun to get to like keep testing different ideas instead of just like, because some of the props were just like, oh, you just need to buy this object, and that's not as fun as getting to like be hands-on and actually get to work with an object and like make it something that is usable on stage and looks realistic.
I think the open nature of it has been very different. A lot of the times the shows, they don't really have that avenue to throw in maybe things from behind the audience or things panning around. But this show allows you to get so strange and so weird that's been a lot of fun. That's been the most different thing about it. Like Chicago, I can't do much with it. It's just live mics. This guy, we can get really weird, which is fun.
I would say the hardest thing about Bug was the time, just having to do so much when we first got here. The one acts were going, so I was in the one act. I was the ASM for Emily, and then I was the SM for Bug. So Bug has been running over multiple different shows that I've been involved in, having to go to Bug rehearsals and then having Emily rehearsals right after, and having an entire week off for KCACTF. So it was really amazing to be able to turn around and have a show go up in, I don't know, maybe like a month and a half, whereas like the other show, Master and Margarita, for this season has been running for a couple months already, and they have so much preparation time, whereas we're just like, let's get this stuff done as fast as we can, but make it look as good as we can. And so it's like, you have to remember to slow down, and that if you make a mistake, just take the mistake and learn from it.